Sorry, thought my camera was on. Give me 1 second. Hello. Alright. Sorry, I just need to fix my cam and we'll get started here. Hold on. Whoa, that's not what I want to do. That's also not what I want to do. Come on, bro. There we go. All right, I'm gonna just slightly lower the music here, and then we're gonna get started. All right, so rough one, and I'm not shocked. This kind of made sense to me, that this will be a rough one for the Bulls tonight. So, I'm not like here like sitting here upset at all or like disappointed. I do think that this is a hard game to watch overall, so I understand if you're like, geez, this sucks. And I get it. But. Nah, I think this made a lot of sense. Second game of back-to-back for the Bulls. Like both games are against supposed contenders. We'll see about the Bucks, but this is arguably the best team in the West, and they came out absolutely put it to the Bulls. They started out pretty rough in my opinion. I thought the Bulls, for some reason, they were in the game halfway through the second quarter when they really shouldn't have been. The Thunder were really struggling to shoot initially, but you see the difference between a team that's rested and a team that isn't. So this makes a lot of sense to what we saw tonight. 18 points in the second quarter really hurt the Bulls. Honestly, the entire first half hurt the Bulls. It was just bad overall, offensive wise. And we can talk about the turnovers all we want, but if you shoot 34% or you shoot 28% from three, you're not going to beat any team. So. I think that's obviously what happened tonight, but I think a lot of Bulls fans, even like if you want this Bulls team to win, I think you should expect this tonight. This to me is what I call a scheduled L, because it's just so unfavorable for you. You face the Milwaukee Bucks, and then the very next day you got to face this team. This is a scheduled L, assuming that the Bucks game was a very tough and closely contested game, which it pretty much was for the Bulls. So. I think this is just a scheduled L on the roster or on the schedule, and I don't think many people should be taking too much away from this game. So I'm here to still talk about it. I think there's always some things that we can talk about. I have some comments about what Stacey King likes to talk about during his broadcast, but that's for that. Yeah, we'll still talk here. I'm glad to see people are here, and yeah, appreciate the support, guys. That might be one of the sloppiest Bulls games I've ever watched. Very happy we kept shooting the 3-ball, even though their shooting tonight was hard to watch. Yeah, this was very sloppy, but I think this is kind of what I've said early on in the year, where turnovers are going to be an issue. I'm not surprised at all that the turnovers are an issue with this team. I think I was actually, when I watched that Bucks game, I was very shocked that there were not more turnovers in that game. That I have some serious questions about the Bucks right now. With their perimeter defense, and I think the Bucks should be ashamed of themselves for what they did last night, their effort that they gave last night against the Bulls. They did not guard a three-point shot. They did not force turnovers. They did everything wrong and basically let the Bulls win that one. This to me is a prime example of what's going to happen for the Bulls against good teams. Good teams that have good perimeter defenders like the Thunder do all across the roster, hence Caruso, Lou Dort, Jalen Williams, like the list goes on and on with the great defenders this team has, and teams that are willing to use their length everywhere around the court, which the Thunder do, and teams that are obviously just very good in general, probably a better game plan overall against this Bulls team. But also the faster play for this Bulls team is going to just lead to turnovers. It's just going to happen. So I'm just going to say buckle up, because this is kind of what to expect moving forward, is more turnovers, and sloppy basketball in a sense. So I'm aware that it sucks. Like when you watch it, it's just like, man, this maybe a bad decision here, a turnover that shouldn't happen there. And obviously then add on top of it, the Bulls can't hit a three tonight. I get it, but I think this is just showing the start of a new overall culture set where the players are not used to this, right? The players are straight not used to playing this fast. So it's just going to take some time to adjust. And I honestly think also the personnel on this roster is just going to be turnover prone. I mean, Zach's turnover prone, Kobe's turnover prone. Giddey so far has been turnover prone. We know Patrick Williams is turnover prone. I think the more concerning part is seeing like guys like Io turn the ball over a lot. And I guess it wasn't that many tonight, but that I think is a little bit more concerning overall to see if Io's like turning the ball over. But I'm just gonna say, just get used to it, you know. Expected turnovers and missed open threes were a bit painful. Yeah, they were painful, but again, I'm not like that concerned. How about bold takeaway? If it's just one AC matchup versus Giddey, did actually Giddey stop him and Giddey score over AC? Yeah. Zach, honestly, of all players, is the one I'm starting to be most worried about. Trade value for his rate of turnovers per game. I'm honestly not concerned about it. I think Zach tonight, I know the turnovers were a big part, but honestly, the only two turnovers that I'm like concerned about with Zach were the two at the end of the first half, where he came down, he turned it over, and then he tried to find Vooch on the second one, and Vooch wasn't there, and he turned that one over. If for Zach, if the turnovers are him just trying to play fast, right, I'm fine with it. If he turns it over, like, okay, whatever. But I think what we have to understand is if a team is going to see Zach and they're like, okay, well, if he's making his shots, which he is, I mean, even in tonight's game where he started pretty rough, he wasn't really taking a lot of shots. He was just getting to the free throw line. He started like 0 for 5, I think. He still finished with 22 points with 4 threes made. So if another team is looking at him and like, oh, okay, well, yeah, the turnovers are pretty bad, I think they're just thinking to themselves, well, he's still the scorer, right? So we're not gonna have him have the ball in his hands like how he is here. He's just gonna come in and be the third or second option, and he's not gonna have the ball as much. Hence why the turnovers, like, he won't be the one making decisions, right? He's gonna be the one that's gonna be on the receiving end of passes instead of him trying to make the pass or try to make the quick decision to push the tempo. He's the receiver end. He's the scorer, right? So I'm honestly not that concerned about it. I think honestly, when it comes to any team, when you like go play for the Golden State Warriors and it's like your first time ever playing for them, you're gonna turn the ball over a lot. It's just gonna happen. So I think teams understand that at the end of the day, that faster pace means more turnovers for everybody. You just gotta get used to it. And I know it's weird, and you see the 7 turnovers, but I think in the end, that's just how it's gonna have to go with Zach. He does need, I don't know what it is on some of these fast breaks though. He does need to find a way to keep the ball in his hands better on the fast breaks. Like the Caruso one, that's just great by Caruso. I'm not concerned about that, but he had a play in the third quarter where it was kind of just, it's a 1-on-5 really. So maybe it's honestly just a bad decision by him, but he's in the paint and he just loses the ball. And I think that's just a product of him just playing so fast. So I think with anybody, like whether it is with Giddey, whether it is with Kobe, if they're just turning it over, just trying to push tempo, I'm not really going to be that concerned about it. So I'm not that concerned about it when it comes to that. I actually have some more concerns about tonight's game. First and foremost, I just want to say that starters besides Giddey, because Giddey didn't play as many minutes, but like let's just take these 4 guys highlighted. I'm not shocked that they struggled more tonight. I mean, all these guys played like 34 plus minutes against the Bucks. So I'm not surprised. Patrick Williams played the most minutes with 36 plus minutes. So I'm not shocked Patrick Williams didn't have a shot tonight. I'm not shocked that, Zach, it took a while for him to get going because he clearly didn't have a shot initially. And Kobe went 0 for 9. I mean, this is just the ebbs and flows of Kobe White, but also he played a lot of minutes last night. So I'm not concerned with these guys. Giddey, he was kind of the only offense initially, and it made a lot of sense. He only played 24 minutes against the Bucks, so I expected him to have the freshest legs tonight, and he showed it. My main concern, honestly, is that Ayo Dosunmu and Lonzo Ball at one point were combined 0 for 12, I think. And Ayo can't hit a damn shot. He hit his 1-3. He's missing layups. Lonzo hit his 1-3, his last 3 attempted, but he couldn't hit a shot for the life of him in this game. And Lonzo didn't play yesterday, and Ayo came off the bench yesterday. Now Ayo did play like 27 minutes yesterday, so maybe he is also fatigued. But some of these guys, man, I'm just, it's a little bit shocking to see when some of these guys come off the bench and they also seem fatigued. Like Jalen Smith, in my opinion, really shouldn't have much of an issue tonight, and he seemed a little fatigued too. So it is early in the year, and I do think that early in the year, back-to-backs are a little bit harsher on teams early in the year as the players start to get back into their rhythm. But yeah, I'm more just shocked tonight with some of the bench guys and how badly they played. And I'm also shocked that Buzelis didn't get more minutes, honestly, because that made no sense. I think Billy needs to play Buzelis much more than he has so far, and I'm a little bit upset at that. At the end of the day, did he play the best of any Bull tonight? I don't know if I would say that personally. I think Vooch was probably the best Bull tonight, but even then, I don't think it was a great performance. I think Giddey, unfortunately, we saw more in the second half. It wasn't too good from him. Obviously, first half was pretty good from Giddey. He was pretty solid, but I think Vooch takes home like best Bull tonight. But even he had 3 turnovers. Like Vooch had 3 turnovers tonight. That's not great. Definitely not great for a center. So yeah, if Giddey stayed consistent while Zach White and people all had the flux on missing heaps of shots, White being the biggest on or off flex. I mean, yeah, so this is like, I'm not gonna blame Kobe too hard for tonight. I know that I've been talking about Kobe White's inconsistency, but like I said, like this to me seemed like fatigue with Kobe. Like his shots were all over the place tonight. Like there was a lot of shots that were short, and then there were a lot of shots that were long. He just didn't have his shot. And I could just tell with Kobe that on some of his drives, he just didn't have the lift. So, hey, as much as I am critical of Kobe with his inconsistency, I'm not going to blame him too harshly tonight. Again, second game of back-to-back, he was the best player against the Bucks. He put up 35. So, I'm not shocked with what happened tonight with Kobe. I guess I am shocked that he did shoot 0 for 9 from 3, but I expected him to struggle. Yeah, and with Giddey, I expected him to be the best player because he had probably the best, most inside of him tonight in terms of energy. So, this does suck. It's a suckish loss to watch, whether you're try if you want the Bulls team to win, or whether someone like me that's like, hey, yeah, I'm cool with every loss. It does suck to witness this because P-Will didn't play well, Kobe didn't play well, Io didn't play well. Phillips was pretty good for his limited minutes, and then Buzelis barely played. Levine had 7 turnovers, which isn't great, but I mean, Levine eventually got it going. So it just sucked. It just sucked to watch, right? And Giddey had a pretty decent first half and not exactly great second half. So it's a suckish game to watch. I get it, but I think it's just, we just have to be understanding about tonight and the situation at hand. This makes a lot of sense why they lost tonight, at least in my opinion. So I'm not too concerned about it at the end of the day. Good point on bench players especially, yeah. So my biggest concern, sorry, I hit my mic. I do apologize for that noise. My biggest concern is, honestly, it was how Lonzo kind of looked, and then how Io has looked specifically from the first 3 games of the season. Like, Io has had a rough start to the year. We're talking about one of the best finishing yards in the league with Io. And he's missing layups. That makes no sense in my head. I'm a little bit shocked at how badly he's missing some of these shots. Io also, he shot it pretty well in preseason from 3, and considering last year, I thought he'd have a pretty decent year from 3-point range, and he's not had that yet. Io was 0 for 8 yesterday. He has not had a good start to the season. So this to me is my more concerning part with these guys. And so, like everybody, I'm going to give him 25 games. Like, I'm not going to start panicking about Io now, but I will say concerned. And it is a little bit kind of on my radar what's happening with some of these guys. And also Jalen Smith tonight. Like, Jalen Smith just seemed like there was a moment where Io missed the layup and Smith got the rebound, and then Smith got blocked by Gorgas. It's not Gorgas. How do you say his name? Usman Jang. And that just seemed like that was just tired legs too, So yeah, I think this is just not. I'm not shocked again with these 4 guys here that I've highlighted. I'm not shocked that they look tired. I was more shocked about these guys not looking too great. And skip Phillips, because I think Phillips is all right tonight. But some of these guys, man, like I don't know what it's gonna take for them, but they got to be ready coming off the bench, like how they were yesterday. Maybe Dalen Terry needed to play today, even though Lonzo was back. But yeah, it's just it's just been a little odd, overall. So I think it's nothing really to be concerned about. I think this is just unfortunately it's a scheduled L, a game where you're probably just gonna look bad. And I think we just move from it, honestly. Scary part, OKC. OKC shot awful from the 3 and played poorly by their standards, yet still this gap. Well, I think that makes sense, though. Like, so first off, OKC started out the game pretty badly, too, right? The Bulls were kind of hanging with them when I'm like, I don't think the Bulls should be hanging with these guys. It makes no sense. But OKC couldn't get their shot to go, and this was kind of what was happening in Denver, too. It just seemed like they just couldn't get their shots going. And so once finally they started to get their shots going and the Bulls fatigue really started to set in that second quarter, it made sense. Like this isn't like this. That's not just too bad for me. The Bulls shot 15, made 15 threes on 53 attempts from the field, from 3-point range. I'm aware how many people are pissed at this right now. Like I'm going to talk about Stacey King a lot in this stream, so get prepared. But I mean, look, this is one of the best defensive teams in the NBA with Oklahoma City, and they added Alex Caruso, who just makes them better defensively. I don't know what it is with some of these Bulls fans. They're like, stop shooting threes, get into the paint, blah 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 blah. I'm like, bro, you don't think that the Bulls are trying? Like, yeah, they're launching threes at a pretty significant rate, sure, but a lot of these threes are just like kickouts. Like, they're actually getting into the paint, but they can't get a shot off because Oklahoma City is just collapsing the paint quickly. Like, it's not like the Bulls are just like, oh, we're just gonna come down and just launch a 3-point shot. No, like, the Bulls were actively trying to get into the paint. Just that the Thunder are one of the best defensive teams in the NBA, and so when all these Bulls fans start complaining on Twitter like, oh my god, stop shooting the 3-ball, it's not going down tonight, I'm like, look, man, this is just how it's gonna have to go. This team is an inconsistent 3-point shooting team. I'm aware that Levine's on the team and he's probably the best shooter, and he's been pretty good even in this game. But Kobe's inconsistent, even though he's like percentage-wise he's good. But Vooch hit his too, so props to him tonight. But I mean, Patrick Williams, we don't know anything. Josh Giddey's not good. We're still kind of up in the air about his 3-point shooting in terms of volume. Phillips is relatively new. I mean, and I think this is more of the shocking one with Lonzo Ball being a bad 3-point shooter tonight. But this team is not gonna like go out and consistently put up like 40% 3-point shooting nights on 45 attempts. It's just not gonna happen. So I think for Bulls fans, they need to understand that. And unfortunately for the other part of the equation, where it's like, oh, we got to get inside, we got to start pounding the paint. Like, if you don't have size, you're not gonna get paint points. It's just facts. And I don't know why Bulls fans are like all about like, we need to get into the paint and everything, blah 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 blah. Like, you understand why the Thunder had so many paint points tonight is because the Bulls defense is garbage. Like, I hope that we understand that. It's not like the Bulls just didn't try to get into the paint tonight. No, like the Bulls defense is garbage, and the Thunder took advantage of it. So props to them. So yeah. One game we can't miss. Next game we can't hit to save our lives. Pat was absolutely trash, but hey, he got 8 rebounds, right? I mean, he is young. He needs some time. I'm not gonna be too critical to these 4 guys. Like to these 4 guys, because they played last night a lot of minutes. I'm not gonna be too critical. Yeah, Pat, I don't think played well at all, but that's like everyone else tonight, so I'm not gonna like single him out, honestly. Stacey was talking like he wasn't actually watching the game. He kept whining they're not gonna go into the paint. I mean, like, they were trying to get into the paint and were getting stuffed and stopped. Like, I can show you guys a ton of possessions where it's a kick out. Like, it's not like the Bulls suddenly just stopped going into the paint. Like, they were actively trying to get into the paint. Like, yeah. Stacey also then said that in New Orleans, the Bulls were launching threes in New Orleans, and they just kept launching them hoping it would go down. And I'm like, that's also false. Like, look, man, I understand that, like, maybe I'm being too, like, sometimes I'm too critical with Stacey King with some of the stuff that he says, but when you just straight up give false info, I'm gonna call you out on it. And so, like, for example, he said, like, the Bulls just kept launching 3-point shots against New Orleans and it wasn't going down. The Bulls only took 34 threes against New Orleans, and then they actually got 60 points in the paint. Like, they were actively getting into the paint. The thing is that New Orleans is actually like pretty decent defensively as well. And so they just stopped the Bulls in the second half, as you can see. Like, the Bulls had a rough time scoring in the second half because New Orleans is good defensively. The Bulls only took 11 threes in the second half against New Orleans. So when Stacey King says that when the Bulls just kept launching threes against New Orleans and the shot wasn't going down and they just kept launching them and they didn't go into the paint, it's a straight up false. It's just straight up a false fact that he's just like trying to throw out there. Like, the Bulls actively got into the paint against New Orleans. They actively tried to score in the paint. They did not launch threes against New Orleans, and even when they kept missing them, they only took 34 and only 11 came in the second half. So I don't know what Stacey King keeps saying. It's just the stuff, this little stuff here and there when it comes to Stacey King. I'm aware that he's a fan favorite, and I used to love him back in the day. But when you give out false info on this broadcast, like, I'm gonna have to call you out. Like, you can't just start saying just crap just because it fits your narrative now. You have to actually like look at the stats before we just start saying like, oh yeah, this is what this Bulls team has done now consistently in the 2 losses. Like, to me, the 2 losses right now are completely different losses. The New Orleans game was a very different game compared to this game tonight. And I hate that Stacey King tried to say that this was a very similar game. It wasn't. This was not a similar game. It was a very different game against New Orleans. The Bulls actively tried to get into the paint against New Orleans. They only took 34 threes. The Bulls took 53 threes tonight. So when you have a 19 field goal attempt difference, I would hope that you would understand that it's a pretty significant difference between what you did in one game and what you did in another game. But anyway, yeah, I'm cool with how the Bulls played tonight. I understand that so many people are pissed off with how the Bulls played tonight, and they're losing their mind seeing 53 threes put up tonight. But I'm cool playing this way and losing, and understanding that this is not going to be the team moving forward where we're, turning it over 26 times and shooting only 28% from 3-point range on 50 plus attempts. We have to understand that moving forward, if they're going to be playing this way, then ideally they're going out and they're getting better shooters that shoot more consistently on higher volume, and better guards and better decision makers so they don't turn over the basketball as much. That's when they're actually going to, trying to win. But for now, this is what's going to happen. So get used to it. This is how this team's going to play. They're going to play fast. They're going to turn the ball over. They're going to launch the 3-point shot. And they're going to do a bunch of driving kicks. So, like, I don't know what to say. OKC has 3 ACs and an elite shot blocker. Shea has high steals per game, and even J-Dub is good D. Okay, stuff for any team defensively. Yeah, like, Oklahoma City held the Denver Nuggets to like 87 points on opening night, and I am aware that Denver just couldn't hit a shot, but like, that's also because Oklahoma City is good defensively. Like, I don't know why people like have this like rough like idea that Oklahoma City is just not good. Maybe it's just because they only come to the United Center once a year. Saying attack the paint on OKC is forgetting how good OKC is even there defending. Yeah, it's straight up just like, hello? Like, the Bulls are shooting the 3-point shot because Oklahoma City is giving them the shot. Like, it's not just like, oh, we're just coming down and launching a contested 3. That's not how this works. Let's focus on complaining that in this kind of game, more minutes than go to Buzelis, Terry Phillips for development. Yeah, I'll get to Billy Donovan in a second about not playing Buzelis more. It makes no sense that Buzelis only got like, what, 4 minutes in the first half and then play in the second half. That makes no sense in my head. But I'll explain in a second here. Although it will change if we had a starting 5 that can actually defend and be a rim protector. The 17 to 20 points Vooch is offering offensively gets absolutely negated by his defense. Yeah, here's the thing though. I give credit to Vooch for knocking down his shots. Like, he missed some gimmies. But yeah, defensively, it's not like he's offering much, for sure. But I do think that, he played all right. Like, I give him credit for hitting his threes because he hasn't done that in the past 3 seasons. So I'm gonna give him credit for that. At the end of the day, Stacey gets salty and starts talking crazy. I don't want to like call out Stacey like this, and I'm aware that like, sure, people are gonna not be happy with me about it, but this to me is just it's an example of where the Chicago Bulls fan base's mindset is, where they're just still stuck in like, oh, we can't be launching all these threes. Like that's just so stupid in my head, where everyone's like, oh, we modern day basketball is not good. Where I'm like, have you watched the NBA, guys? Like, hello? Like it bothers the absolute crap out of me. So if you're wondering, by the way, like, was this like a game where the Bulls like were playing so bad offensively where guys weren't spreading the ball around, the ball wasn't moving? Like, the Bulls still had 23 assists tonight on 34% from the field shooting. Like I want people to understand, like, this game sucked to watch. I get it. The threes weren't going down. Nothing was going down tonight. The Bulls still had 23 assists tonight, though, on 34% from the field shooting. Like, this is what's gonna happen. Like, you play this sort of style because it's more efficient, and even on bad nights, you at least still kind of play, like, you know, you're still moving the ball correctly. No one's being a ball hog, right? I mean, the most shots someone took tonight was 14 by Josh Giddey. So it wasn't like someone was like hogging the ball all night and, you know, slowing down the offense. This is just how it's gonna go in this offense. You're gonna make a bunch of threes one night, you're gonna miss a ton of threes the next night. So not as much this game, but future with raining threes, I would also like to see a bit more crashing the glass. Giddey does it a lot. I guess Giddey does it a bit. I think, unfortunately, with this team, though, there's just not a lot of people that can do that. I think with Billy, with what he's preaching, where you're going to be playing faster, you want to see more people getting back. With Patrick, though, like, for guys like Patrick Williams, I do think that he should be crashing the glass, but you know, with anyone else, I do think that the priority is to just get back defensively, and maybe if a guard here and there can sneak in for some offensive rebounds, but it's just kind of how the tempo is. It's gonna be a little bit hard. Actually, the threes were mostly open. I also do too. I think the Bulls got a lot of open threes tonight. Like, I don't think this was contested tonight. Like, I think the Bulls just missed. And the Thunder were willing to just give that up tonight. Like, they were saying, like, hey, you're not gonna score in the paint, which is what they do consistently. And they said, we're gonna just let them shoot the three ball, and if they beat us outright, cool. But if they don't, then that's our game plan. Because again, this team, like, I understand that we think that we have good 3-point shooters on this team. I'm just saying that I think that there's a few that are still up in the air. Like, Kobe I would argue is their second best 3-point shooter, but he went 0 for 9 tonight. Like, he is unfortunately an inconsistent shooter sometimes. And as much as, like, we talk about Patrick Williams' 3-point percentage and Io's 3-point percentage, they don't have great volume on their 3-point attempts. So it's a pretty good overall game plan against this Bulls team, is to just, you know, if they beat you from the 3-point line, great. But the other thing that you should be doing, though, is to pressure these guards and perimeter players to make decisions with the basketball, because they're going to turn it over, right? Hence all the turnovers that we saw tonight. Because we even saw kind of early on where the Thunder were picking up full court defense against the Bulls. And I think that shows the good game plan that the Thunder had, which is like, okay, we're gonna really put pressure on these guards to have to handle the basketball properly and make the proper decisions, or else we're gonna steal that. We're gonna steal every single ball. If they mess up or they don't make a decision quickly enough, like, we're just gonna hound you. And I think that's a good thing for teams to do. The best of the best can do it, right? And the Thunder are obviously the best of the best. So I'm not shocked that they were able to do this tonight. So yeah, I hope that, like, here's actually the one time I will defend Donovan. To me, Donovan seemed to, you know, even with all the missed shots from 3-point range tonight, he was still saying launch it. Like, Kobe, even though he was 0 for 9, he was still launching them. Like, at no point did Donovan say, hey, stop shooting it, you're struggling. And I give him props for that, because this is how it's supposed to work. The best of the best, like, even if they don't have it going that night, if they're ever open, they still launch it with full confidence. And then, you know, if it goes down, great. If it doesn't, then you just keep shooting it. And I give Donovan props for just sticking with the game plan. But I think that some people, some of the fan base need to kind of understand the situation tonight. It's a rough situation tonight to try to even get a win, let alone even make this a competitive game. So I hope that Bulls fans can maybe give this team a little bit of grace for what they had to go through, and understand that the Thunder will be at the top of the Western Conference at the end of the season. It won't be a shocker, hopefully, to them. The move was fine to get the threes open. Yeah, we moved the ball nicely. We took good shots. Mostly, we were tired. The shots weren't going in and going to the paint. Got us nowhere. I mean, it was OKC. You just don't go in the paint against them. Yeah, you basically, yeah, that's basically all I'm trying to say. So, I know I'm not like the most followed person in the world when it comes to the Bulls community, but I'm sure that there are some people that are absolutely like going off and ranting about what happened tonight. I'm just here saying, like, look, this is the way I want to play. I'm happy that we kept shooting the threes. I'm happy that we kept pushing the tempo. The turnovers sucked, but I'm prepared for it. And we faced a very good team that we would probably lose to anyway, even if we were fully rested. But we faced them on the second night of a back-to-back. It happens. This is how the NBA season works. And, you know, on some nights, we're going to be the other team where we catch a team on the second night of a back-to-back and we are launching threes and draining them in their faces. Cool, you know? It's just how it's going to work on some nights. So far, Vooch is the best shooter for this season. I'm actually interested, because I actually think Vooch is, like, percentage-wise, he is the best shooter right now for the season. And I just want to quickly look at it. Yeah, he's shooting 54%. I'll give it to him. So yeah, props to Vooch. Like, I have questions if this is going to continue for Vooch moving forward. And I think I have every right to question it. But yeah, I mean, so Zach's shooting 48%, which is still very good. Like, I mean, there's nothing wrong with shooting 48% from three. He's also still shooting 56% from the field. I'll say 55. So that's obviously looking good. I mean, I'm aware this number is bad, but I'm not concerned about it, honestly. I think those are like your two best shooters right now, right? Because Kobe clearly isn't. He went 0 for 9 tonight. I'll look at Giddey's stats actually because I'm interested right now. Oh well, yeah. So Giddey right now is a 66% three-point shooter. Not on high volume, but props to him so far for knocking down the three-point shot. But he's taken 7, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I had to double check that. Let me just see here. Okay, no, that's not it. Blitz, and then we gotta go to shooting. If it would load, please load. And was it actually? Nope, it's not this either. Okay, cool. I hate it here. Wait, did they just update? I'm still lost. Okay, no, he's 4 for 9. Okay, so he's shooting 44% from 3. Okay, so he's at 9 attempts. Okay, 6. Oh yeah, that makes a lot more sense actually. He had 6 tonight. He then shot 2 against the Bucks and then 1 against the Pelicans. Okay, good. Yeah. Zach at 47 with almost 80 attempted threes per game. I won't lie, if Zach can even get that number up to like 9 attempts per game, that's very good. And obviously, like, he's doing great now. Like, I'm not complaining, but if he could just raise it, it'd be also good. So Giddey effect, which is happy to be fed the ball, as you hinted at. I think Giddey is like kind of part of it, but I more so think that Vooch is just hitting the shots. Like, this to me is more so just that Vooch is just shooting better. Because here's the problem. Like, the only reason why I'm hesitant to say it's the Giddey effect is because Nikola Vucevic had the most amount of wide open 3-point shots attempted last season, and he missed the most. So as much as, like, yeah, Giddey does give him the ball like in good spots, Vooch also had the most amount of wide open 3-point attempts last season by any player like in the league, and he missed the most. So I'm not gonna just fully give it to Giddey. I'm just gonna more so say that, hey, Vooch is just hitting his shots, because he just straight up didn't do that last season. He sucked last season from 3. And I seriously do question if this is going to continue, because I don't think it will. But if we can somehow get him to shoot over 40% and then convince the team to take him at the trade deadline, awesome. That'd be fantastic. Vooch is fighting his butt off to get traded out here. So I was even talking with someone on Twitter about this, that so if Vooch, let's just say for some reason Vooch like shoots over 40% from 3-point range in like 5 attempts per game this season, and then it gets traded. Like, because a team is like, oh look, he's shooting 40% from 3-point range and over 5 attempts. Great, let's just take him. It's basically what he did when the Bulls traded for him. It's like the year that he gets traded, quote unquote, he plays so well he shoots so well from 3-point range that a team is willing to actually go out and get him, right? Which the Bulls did, right? And they're like, yeah, we'll take him. And it gets him off the team. And I don't think he ever wanted to leave Orlando, but it's so funny because if he actually goes and has like a really good year this year from 3-point range and it tricks a team to taking him, then on both years where he shot his best from 3-point range, he gets traded because the team's like, oh, he's shooting great from 3. It just basically baits the team into picking it or into betting on him, like, oh yeah, we'll take him. And yeah, I just find it hilarious because we know with Vooch, unfortunately, that his good 3-point shooting seasons are the outlier. It's not the consistent theme. Unfortunately, these are the outlier seasons. So if you're wondering, again, so this year with the Bulls, so you can see here in Orlando, he shot 40% from 3-point range on over 6 attempts. And then he even came to the Bulls and still shot 39% on like 6 attempts per game. And it died down to 31% to 35% to 29%, and then so far this season he's shooting pretty well. I don't know if it will continue or not, but if he does get traded this season because he's shooting so well from 3, it'll be very funny. And I'd be very happy camper. Basically, it's a lot of the same fans who expect this team to win over 35 plus games. This team isn't good, but they act like surprised when nights like these happen. Again, so if you said 35 wins, I think that's reasonable. I'm just more so talking to the fans that said like 40 plus wins, that they're like, these sort of nights shouldn't happen. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like this to me makes a lot of sense. I think if you said 35 wins, like I think that's reasonable. And it's like, I think you should expect nights like this, but if you said 40 plus wins and you're seeing this and you're like, what the hell is happening? I'm like, bro, like this to me makes a lot of sense. So yeah, thing is, if we showed that if we would be shooting close to average, we could win this game, and OKC is a contender. We are not as bad as some people want to believe we are. I mean, look, Box, here's the problem though. I don't think we are that good shooting. Like that's the thing. I don't think we're that good. Because like even if you're like saying like, oh, if we get close to average, like I want people to understand, Kobe went for 7 threes against Milwaukee. That just doesn't happen. Like the 3-point percentage from some of these guys against Milwaukee, it doesn't happen consistently. Like Kobe going for 7 doesn't happen consistently. It's not gonna happen. Vooch going for 4 honestly shouldn't happen either. And even tonight he shot 2 for 2. Like it just doesn't happen. So that's the reason why I do question, like, even if we think what we think is average, I don't know if that's actually average for us. I think, Zach going off for maybe 3 it sounds like average, and so 3 or 4 makes sense, but I don't know what I'm going to get from Kobe every night. That's the problem. Also, shooting 0 to or 25% doesn't happen either. Sure. So let's say Kobe shoots 35% tonight. Let's say he hit 2 of 9. Or sorry, 3 for 9. Like, I don't think this Bulls team wins this game though, right? Thing is, when we did, he was a 34, so we can't really expect a lot in return. I just want Vooch off the roster, Box. Just like, I don't think he will ever get off this roster until his contract's over. So, if he can convince someone just to take him, I'd be very happy. Get him off the roster. If some team is like, oh hey, he's shooting 40% from 3-point range, we'll give up like a 2nd round pick and like a contract for it. Awesome, great, get him off the roster. Good, goodbye. But I don't think a team's gonna do that. I think they're very aware. But if a team's desperate, like I don't think the Knicks are gonna want Vooch. I don't know why people keep talking about the Knicks. it's very funny when I hear people talk about the Knicks as like an option for Vooch. I don't think that makes any sense. The team that was actually like, I actually thought the Thunder might be willing to take him initially after the Hartenstein injury, but they're not going to take him due to money issues. I don't know who it would be. The Lakers. But I think Anthony Davis is officially playing center now for the Lakers, which I know he doesn't want to do, but it's the right decision. So, yeah, I don't know. I do wonder. I do wonder who's going to be willing to even think about taking Vooch, and I'm gonna say nobody. Yeah, Denver. Maybe Denver's willing to. Maybe Denver's willing to take Vucevic because they cannot hit the three for the life of them right now, unless your name is Jokic. Because Denver is having a horrific start to the season right now. And I don't know. Maybe backup center. That'd be very funny. But did Lonzo injury align to Vooch shooting worse three for the Bulls? No. Even in the first season for Vooch with Lonzo Ball, which was this year, Vooch started the season poorly from three. Like, he couldn't hit a shot in preseason from three-point range. I was not concerned. I was like, oh, you'll be fine. And then I'm like, oh boy, he sucks. So yeah, this was the first year. And so I'll just go ahead and show you that even the splits for the season, like, Vooch wasn't shooting great in terms of like early on, like, look, 32%, 34%, and then I guess you could say December 36%. Sure. Lonzo played half of January, and then obviously he didn't play in February, but then Vooch had his best shooting month in March. So I don't know. I think it's a little hard to say that, oh, Lonzo was the coordination to Vooch shooting good or bad from three-point range. I think just Vooch has just sucked since he's gone to the Bulls for full seasons from shooting from three-point range. I know 35% isn't like that bad, and so like this season for Vooch, like this year, it's not the worst season in the world because he shot over 50% from the field and 35% from three-point range. But then obviously last season was horrific. He averaged more points per game, but it's less efficient. So I don't care that he averaged more points per game. If you shoot, less efficient and 29% from three, I'm going to call you a bad player. And so, yeah. So far this season, he is shooting 45%. That's not right. He's shooting over 45% from three right now. Yeah, so he's shooting 54% from three-point range to start the season. So that won't stay up there. But if you can shoot 40%, great. Awesome. Hopefully a team will take you. Because I seriously doubt a team will be willing to take you. Box. So look, here's the thing though, Box. I understand that this front office is trying to win games. Like they come out and said it. Billy Donovan's still here. They're trying to win games. Sure, fine, great, awesome. I just think that this team is worse than they think. I think that they think Josh Giddey is actually like a really like amazing player, and they expected him to come in and be like, replacing DeMar DeRozan in terms of like all-star caliberness. I don't think that's happening. Like, I don't think Josh Giddey's gonna be an all-star this season. If he does, great, awesome. Then you know what, we're fine. But I've said it. I don't think that Giddey's gonna be that good. And you lost Alex Caruso, who is an all-defensive team defender. Hence, then, even if you go and play more efficient basketball, which they have, I think you're still losing games. And I just think that the front office hasn't actually accepted that yet. So therefore, I'm fine if they go like they should be going out and trying to win every single game, because that's how you raise Zach LaVine's trade value at the end of the day. And that's going to raise everybody's value at the end of the day. However, if they go out and lose more games than they think that they should, which is them going out and winning only 33 games or something like that, and they stay within the top 10, perfect. In terms of keeping their pick, I'm happy. I'm here for it. So sure, go and try and win as many games. I'm saying that I think the Bulls will be a one of the worst 8 teams in the league this season. So sure, maybe I'm going to be wrong about this, but I think that there are certain signs that have already shown that with the turnover issues, the lack of defense on every single game, this team is a lot worse than the front office thinks. Therefore, sure, go out and try to win as many games, because that's what you should do. You're playing basketball at the end of the day. You should win every game. You should try. But if they end up winning more than they thought, then great. Or winning less than they thought, awesome. I think that's what's going to happen this season. So keeping the pick would be great. And I'm not even saying we even need a tank. I'm just saying that if we just got to keep the pick this season, I think we're in a better spot for the future. We're looking for real 41-41-ish. I just straight up disagree. Because I think if we're 41 and 41-ish, then we win against New Orleans. I'm telling you right now, this Bucks team, I am concerned for them at the moment. I don't know what the hell they're doing. That Bucks performance, like their defensive performance was a travesty. So if like this is a scheduled L, sure. I'm not taking much from this game. But to me, if this Bulls team was actually like 500-ish, then I don't think what are we averaging in terms of giving up points per game? Like so far this team defensively has been horrific. Where are we actually? Defensive rating. Oh wow, we're actually in the mid pack somehow. How are we this good defensively right now? That makes no sense. This can't be right. Where are we in terms of points given up per game though? Out of 13. Oh, here we go. This is shocking to me. I don't think this is this right? This can't be right. I'm interested in seeing this moving forward. Like, dear Lord, like the Thunder have no, this can't be updated because the Thunder this is based off of their okay, yeah, this is 48 minutes. I think this is based off their first game, actually. What does Thunder have? Thunder played Thursday. The 87 and 95, that doesn't correlate. I don't think that's correct. I'll look into that later. But, dear Lord, we're saying that the Thunder have 85 defensive rating. That's an insane stat. That's genuinely insane. This makes sense. I'm not shocked at that. Where is the Lakers? 117, and then okay, they're playing their third game. Okay, yeah. All right, maybe the Bulls are better defensively, but this doesn't make sense to me because the Bulls gave up 123 against New Orleans. Right? Let's see. So we've given up 123 against New Orleans, and then 122 against Milwaukee. And the Bulls, and tonight against 114 against the Thunder. That's not great at any of those games. Like that, this is bad defensive performances in all of those games. But yet somehow we're 108 rating defensively. That I don't know if that's right. I'm going to look into that later and see if it updates. But I mean, what is that average? We're giving up 118 points per game right now. That makes no sense in my head. Let's see. Points. Bonus points. So far, okay. I mean, so yeah, this is, I don't know if this is updated because this seems like it's only 2 games. Yeah, this is only 2 games so far. So yeah, this isn't updated for the third game yet, but I mean, so this is through 2 games, and then okay, 100. Let's just go to 114. So we'll say 118 points per game. So we're here, like we're basically in this area right now in terms of points given up per game. That's yikes, and I don't think the Thunder even played that good tonight. I'm gonna be real. I think the Thunder did not play great initially in the first half. What did the Thunder shoot tonight, actually? So the Thunder shot 42% from the field on 20% from 3-point range. Yeah. And still got 114 points. 16-20 from the free throw line. Oh. I don't know, man. Maybe I have copium. I have told people that I've been talking to me on Twitter, and I've said it here always on this channel. If I'm ever wrong about this team, like if this team actually goes on to win 40 plus games, I will eat crow and I will say I was 100% wrong. I actually, like, I told a person that I was willing to bet money about them winning like 43 games, because they were coming at me on Twitter saying like, no, they're gonna win 43 plus games. I'm like, you're insane. Like, I don't think, there's no way this team is winning 43 games. And I told them, like, put the money where your mouth's at, and they didn't do it, but I was willing to bet. So yeah, I'll admit that I'm wrong, and honestly, I'll probably even give you guys money, like, in terms of like memberships on the channel, if I end up being wrong. People are Denzel Valentine's channel, how it just said, so nothing really surprised me when it comes to Bulls fans behind anyone. Yeah, that's fair. You know, whenever be a first option score though, if it's second or third on a good team as he develops. Well, I need Giddey, in my opinion. Like, I'm being real. Giddey needs to, for him to have like the ball in his hands consistently, he needs to be at least like borderline second option. Like, you look at a lot of third options in like championship level teams, right? Like, I don't know who you consider the third option for the Boston Celtics, but let's just say it's Porzingis. Like, he doesn't have the ball in his hands a lot, right? For the Nuggets, it's Michael Porter Jr. He's a catch and shooter. For the Warriors, like, it's, I guess in the most recent championship, it wasn't Klay Thompson, but when it was Steph Curry and Kevin Durant playing together, Klay Thompson was the third option, right? When it was Giannis, it was Drew Holiday was the third option. Like, these guys don't really have the ball in their hands a ton. And so that's the reason why, for me, like, Giddey has to find a way to become like an actual like borderline second option. And I don't know if that's going to be the case for him. Like, I do have my doubts, which that's the reason why I'm saying, like, he has to average, at least in my opinion, 18 points per game this season. And then moving forward, he has to get up to 20 plus. That's a big step, in my opinion. So it's on him. I'm rooting for him for it to happen. I just don't know if it's going to happen. And even for this Thunder team, right? I mean, like, Shea's the one. I would argue Jalen Williams for now is the two, but you can say Chet Holmgren is the two right now. Like, guys have to consistently score if they're ever going to be an option, right? And then even if you're the third option, you need to probably be a good three-point shooter at the end of the day, like a good catch-and-shoot shooter, because you're gonna get a lot of shots that are kind of created from the first and second options, right? So for me, honestly, when it comes to Giddey, like, I think he needs to be as good as a second option. That's a major thing that he needs to try to figure out, though, because we talked about this a lot with Zach. Like, people still say Zach's not a second option. I think personally Zach is, but people have said though that even though Levine puts up 25 a night, that they think he's a third option. So for Giddey, it's like, that's a major stepping stone there, where you can't just average 16 and be like, yeah, I'm second option or whatever. Like, no, you gotta at least average 20. So I'm just putting that out there. Again, I'm rooting for him, but it's a lot of work that he would have to do if he's gonna become like the second option on a roster. Yeah. But like, what Box is saying, like, about Giddey, like, with OKC, who is like clearly looking really good right now, like, wanting him, you know, either on the bench or gone, like, it is concerning. Like, I think that is something that we should also take note of, where it's like, yeah, this is a team that said we're willing to give him up for Alex Caruso. It's something just to keep in mind. The Bulls are then betting, right, that they made the wrong decision. But if I had to choose between the Thunder and the Bulls right now to make decisions for my basketball team moving forward, I am choosing the Thunder and their front office. So that's the reason why I'm just like, I am concerned about it. And I think that I think it's okay to be concerned. But like I said, though, I'm rooting for him to be good. It's just gonna take a lot to convince me at the end of the day. What do you think will happen with Lonzo next year? I think with Lonzo, he's gonna probably look to go to like play on some sort of contending level team. Maybe he goes back to LA or something. So with Lonzo, I think for both the Bulls and Lonzo, it's probably just best for them just to move on. Um, Lonzo, I think his career in terms of being a starter is, I still think, up in question for a lot of teams. Like, they're gonna probably question if he's able to handle a 30+ minute load every single night. And so with that being said, I think that teams can maybe look at him as like sort of like a Caruso in a sense, just a better 3-point shooter at the end of the day. And if he can come back and consistently for like the next however many years he plays, play like 16 to 20 minutes a night and be an effective player in those 16 to 20 minutes, then that's very valuable. So I think the Bulls are not going to be willing to pay him as much to come off the bench. And so therefore, I think he'll go to some team in like on the mid-level exception, or I think that some contending team is going to look at him as a 3-and-D type player and be willing to give him that like mid-level exception money and bring him in. So yeah, it sucks that I think his Bulls time is over after this season, but I think it's just for the best for both parties. I think the Bulls it doesn't make sense to keep him around, honestly. And I think for Lonzo, him moving forward, like, he's just not going to be a starter, at least in my eyes. So I wouldn't want him to stay here for a team that clearly is not going to be contending anytime soon. So yeah. Bulls turnover total for us tonight, 26. Yeah, 26 turnovers tonight. This is rough. So I guess in 3 games the Bulls have had, how many was it against New Orleans? 21, right? So yeah, 21 turnovers against New Orleans. So in 2 games against New Orleans and Oklahoma City, they've had 47. So add 9. The Bulls have had 56 turnovers so far in 3 games. That's an insane amount. That's crazy. They gave Pokusevski 3 seasons plus a couple of months in the 4th before giving up. They gave up like any faster. I won't lie, Pokusevski was one of those players that I didn't understand why they kept him around. I was not very high on him. I know a lot of people that were high on him. I know King in the 4th quarter was high on Pokusevski. He liked him. But I won't lie, I was not high on Pokusevski. It made no sense in my head for Pokusevski. So yeah. I trust Sam Presti and what they've done. They're pretty smart overall when it comes to this sort of stuff. Charles, the only problem with your argument with what you're saying is 17 points per game enough for Josh to be a consistent 1 or 2 option, right? Like, I'm aware that those are better stats when Shea is out, but for the Thunder, right, would you rather have Jalen Williams or Josh Giddey to be your number 2, right? That's the reason why, like, yeah, I'm aware of those stats. Like, yeah, he played better when Shea was not on the floor, sure, but with those stats, right, where he's like more involved, is it worth for the Thunder to look into that and be like, oh yeah, that guy's worth being the number 1 or 2 on the team when Shea isn't on the team? So when Shea's off the floor, we can trust him to be our number 1 option on the court right now. I don't think that's the case, right? I think they look at guys like Jalen Williams, like guys like Chet Holmgren, and like, well, we want the ball in their hands, like. And I get it. Like, I think that's a smart decision. Hence what they're doing right now. Like, it makes a lot of sense. So, sure, this was more of a like, hey, there's a lot of things kind of going on with this team. There's a lot of guys that need the ball, and Josh might be the oddball out. But at the same time, though, they've actively made a decision where they see the guys that are gonna be their future, like, main core guys, right? And they have to choose one to get rid of. They got rid of the guy that they think is the least effective, right? The guy that they don't have as much faith in terms of their future. So that's just what I'm saying. They clearly got rid of who they thought was the worst player, or else it would have been Josh Giddey who they got rid of at the end of the day. but okay, Charles. Here's what I'm saying though. I understand that he is a point guard, but we've talked about this on the stream a lot. If you're going to be a main playmaker in this league, okay, you have to score. I don't care if you're the best passer in the world. Like, go. Why is Rajon Rondo not in the league anymore then? Like, Rajon Rondo is one of the best passers I've ever seen. But if you can't consistently score the basketball, I'm not going to give you the basketball. That's the problem. So the whole point about today's efficiency is that you have the ball in guys' hands who can score and also play make. So if I'm running a team, I'm looking at Giddey and I'm like, okay, I see that you're a fantastic passer, but I'm not gonna consistently, like, on a winning team, I'm not gonna be giving you the basketball to run the team unless you're gonna go out and score 20 a night. That's just how things work, right? In even with, for example, like someone like today with Chris Paul. Chris Paul is like, he's point god, right? People love Chris Paul. They talk about how much that he sets up his teammates. I understand all that. But the problem with Chris Paul, especially more recently, is that he is not a 20-point per game scorer. In his heyday, Chris Paul could score the best of them. And Chris Paul was just a walking bucket. But obviously right now, I mean, like, you know, he's 40 plus. But even there's times, like, as he was kind of slowing down in Phoenix, like, it's just not the best thing to do, to give it to a guy who, yeah, he might be the greatest, like, passer in the world. But if he's not going to consistently give you those 20 points per game consistently on good efficiency, then I can't give you the ball, right? This is like, in these days where Chris Paul is averaging 20 plus points per game, like, yes, obviously you want this guy running your team, but that was back then. But as he kind of aged, it got harder, right? It's just how the game is played today. You would much rather just have the guy that you give the basketball to be an efficient scorer than a fantastic passer. And this has always been my argument with Lonzo too. Like, with Lonzo, people are, oh, he's the point guard on this roster. Like, DeMar DeRozan was the point guard for the Bulls while he was here when Lonzo was the starting point guard. Like, Lonzo is one hell of a passer, but when you look at everything else, he is a catch and shoot 3-point shooter. He is one of the best passers, but he does not bend the defense. Like, his playmaking skills in terms of, like, collapsing the defense and creating open shots for others, they lack. But if a teammate is ever open, he's going to give him the basketball. Like, that makes a lot of sense. So it's a hard balance, right? And with Giddey, like, it can't just be you're a great passer. That's the only issue with it. I have more faith in Giddey than YRP. Well, that's fine. I'm happy that you do have more faith in him. I personally don't. I have more faith in Kobe White personally. I don't know about P. Will right now. I won't lie. Patrick Williams is I'm losing faith by the day. But yeah, I understand your faith, and that I applaud your positivity, because I won't ever have that sort of positivity, unfortunately. But this is what's gonna have to take for Giddey though. Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, it can't just be 16 a night. It won't be enough in this league. Because what's gonna happen eventually, what you're gonna start seeing, Charles, is that let's say the Bulls draft a guy, like, let's just say they get lucky and they go out and they draft another, like, sort of guard in a sense, okay? Let's say this guy goes on to average, 28 per game, and sure, he's not the best passer, but let's say he averages like 4 assists per game, sure. Who are you gonna give the ball to? Like, I'm just being honest. Because at the end of the day, I'm going to go out and give the ball to the guy who I know is going to be scoring 20 a night on consistently and on good efficiency, rather than give the ball to Josh Giddey, who is only going to give me 16 and 8 a night. But, I don't know how he's going to get that 16. I don't know if he's going to actually give me consistent points every night. Like, it's a major question mark. That's just what I'm saying. Because, like, even let's just take the Oklahoma City Thunder, for example, hence what they decided to do, right? If you had a decision to make between whether Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who is not, in terms of, like, assists per game, like, Shai is not up there in terms of, like, oh, he's going to come out and, like, average a bunch of assists per game, right? So, like, last year he averaged 8, but, like, we've seen years where he's at less. But if I'm the Thunder, I'm going to give the ball to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander over giving it to Josh Giddey, right? if I had to make that decision of who I'm gonna let run the team, right? I'm gonna give it to Shea. He's a 30-point per game scorer on extremely good efficiency. The other guy is a 16-point per game scorer who I know can get 8 assists every night, but I don't care. Again, any good comparisons, Cam Thomas at the moment getting the ball with the Nets, even with other weaknesses. Well, I think the better comparison though is with the Nets is like, I know Ben Simmons is like a fantastic passer and everything. I know Ben Simmons could get me 16 points a night when he's healthy. But if I had a decision to make, whether it's I give the ball to Ben Simmons to go and make the decisions for the team and initiate the offense, or I give the ball to Cam Thomas, who I know is going to put up 25 a night, who I'm going to give the ball to? Like, I'm going to give the ball to the more consistent scorer. I'm not going to give the ball to the guy who I have questions about scoring. And Ben Simmons is one hell of a passer. Sure. But I'm not going to give the ball to him. Like, even with the 76ers, when they had Ben Simmons and Embiid, who they give the ball to most of the time? It's still everything ran through Embiid. It wasn't that Ben Simmons was coming down and, running, like, initiating everything. Like, yeah, they ran pick and roll sometimes, but, like, it was Embiid who had the most touches, who made all the decisions. The offense was Embiid. It wasn't Ben Simmons. Like, this is where we have to understand that when it comes to someone like Giddey, like, Giddey needs basically another big who is gonna be pretty good, and he himself either has to score close to or just as much as that guy to be then handling the basketball consistently. Like, that's a lot that you need for him to succeed in terms of, like, reaching that all-star level status, right? I think I'm done with P. Will, bro. He's not a bad player. He's just not what I thought he was going to be. That's fair, too. I think that's fair criticism if you're done with him. I've just said, though, with Patrick Williams, like, I know that the contract looks pretty, like, ridiculous right now, but if he just gets a little bit better, then, like, I guess I should say I'm not concerned, but, like, I'm not, like, freaking out, if that makes sense. Sure, maybe he's not a starter, but, it's not the worst thing in the world. Because I know he can still give you the defense at the end of the day. Bad run, fast break, similar to Joel. Yeah, sure, but I don't really like. I've talked about how much Giddey needs to do that just because this team needs to play faster. But when we're talking about half court offense, like we're talking about like the half court of like, all right, if we're gonna be running plays, who's the play going through? It's going through the star player who's gonna give me the most points per game. So with Giddey, like, it's a very hard balance. It's a hard thing to work around. Because if we're going to have him be the main ball handler for this team, but he's not going to be the main scorer, right, then what's the balance? He has to score enough to be the main ball handler, so that's worth giving him the ball. But then he also has to make sure that he is still distributing enough so that the other guy that is scoring the most amount of points is not going to be upset not having the basketball. Like, it's a hard workaround to try to make sure that to make Giddey succeed in this new future, and he's not the main scorer, right? He's not a leading scorer on this roster. It's a very hard workaround. It's a very hard thing to figure out, which is the reason why I'm saying that, like, for me, I'm hoping that this isn't even a discussion and like Giddey's averaging like 24 and 10, so we don't have to even talk about it, right? Like, he's the best scorer on the team. He's the best passer on the team. We just give him the ball. But I have doubts. I don't think that's gonna happen. So that's why I'm hoping that he really increases that points per game, average this season. Yeah, Charles, I'll give you one more example where I'm talking about with all this. Okay, if right now, right, if you're like let's just use the 76ers, okay? Ben Simmons is a 16-point per game scorer who doesn't shoot the three ball, right? But he's a fantastic passer. At the end of a game, when it comes down to crunch time, and it's a slow tempo, you have to get everything down to the T, right? You're gonna be putting the basketball in whoever you think is gonna be the best player in terms of who is gonna make the best decision and who gives you the best chance to win, right? Who are you giving it to on the 76ers when Ben Simmons was on the team, right? You're giving it to Embiid, right? And then when they got Jimmy Butler, they then gave it to Jimmy Butler, okay? And they let Jimmy Butler and Embiid run that show. If I'm running a team right now, and let's say that I have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on my team, along with Josh Giddey and Jalen Williams, who's my number one option? Who's my number two? Who's my number three? Okay, I think you can figure that out on the fly. But who's gonna give me the best shot at winning the game at the end of the game, right? Who am I gonna give the ball to at the end of a game that's I think is gonna make the best decision, that's gonna be the best chance to score, and also make the right decision if they get like triple teamed? I'm giving it to the player that scores the most points per game. It's just facts, right? And so that's the reason why with Giddey, it's like, I don't know if you can be a third option and be the, point guard of the team, because if you're not effective off ball, then I don't know how you're the third option. Like it's a very hard thing to figure out, because Giddey needs the ball in his hands to be effective, but he's not as effective as these other players that have the ball in his hands. So again, it's such a hard thing to figure out with Giddey, that he can just answer all these questions if he goes out and just averages 20 points per game, and we don't have to talk about it anymore, right? If he's going to succeed, he needs to really copy Lonzo's half-court presence, which means he doesn't get to handle the ball, but be able to stretch the floor and hit shots and create something with one touch. Right. Giddey would have to rely on more so his just great vision and have the other guys open up shots for themselves, and Giddey just gives them the ball. Like, it would be more so kind of what Draymond Green, I guess, does in a sense. But yeah. Right, so you chose Butler, right? Like, sure, Ben Simmons is a great passer, and I trust his decision making, but right, you're gonna give it to the guy that you can trust to also score the ball, right? And we know Butler is also a pretty damn good passer himself. So yeah, I'm just showing you, like, this is the problem when it comes to Giddey. So as much as you have faith in him, I'm showing you why I don't have much faith in him, and I'm showing you what I need him to do. Because this sort of stuff here, like, there's a major difference between what Shai Gilgeous-Alexander does and what Josh Giddey is obviously going to be trying to do. One's going to get the ball and one isn't at this rate. So yeah, Giddey's young. He's 22. I just don't think that he's just going to miraculously have more athleticism randomly. So I question how much he can actually get better. So it comes down to him just hitting his 3-point shots and finding ways to finish more effectively at the rim. And so maybe it requires an off season of working under Peter Patton and everything. But unfortunately, he doesn't get an off season to get that new contract. That's all I'm saying. And you'll still never be able to play a fourth of the defense that Lonzo, who missed almost 3 years, can offer. Yeah. There's the other issue with Giddey, is that, well, if he's not offering anything off ball offensively, what can he do on the other end of the court? He doesn't offer anything besides some size. He offers some rebounding, sure. As part of the cleaning to Josh is that all the rest of the Bulls roster is older and already sort of set in their weakness more. I like it, but there's a layup and a fast break he missed in such an awkward fashion. Yeah, I mean, this is the problem with Josh. So I understand where you come from, Charles, because I get it. Like, this team has, we've watched a lot of these guys. We've seen Zach for so long. We've seen Vooch for however long. Obviously DeMar's gone, but um, you look at someone like Kobe and you're like, okay, well, are you actually gonna become like an all-star? I don't think so, right? Um, and so you've seen Kobe for now. This would be 6 years with Kobe, right? So you look at new blood and you're like, hey, I want him to succeed. I get it. I understand. Like it's like a shiny new toy that you really want it to be like your main new thing. Um, but at the same time, I think that we have to look at this shiny new toy and see what the flaws are, um, and understand that you can't turn this shiny new toy into something that it isn't. Um, I would hope that Peter Patton can fix Giddy's shot and everything so that he is willing to shoot like 6 threes a game on good efficiency, um, and not afraid to shoot it off a pick and roll situation. And he can shoot it off the dribble well. Like I hope that he gets to that point, man. But like the problem that I think a lot of Oklahoma City Thunder fans that loved Giddy as much as they did, and um, they knew that the day would come that he would get probably moved, and all these people thought that he was going to be like their next All Star. They then at the end of Giddy's time with them, they then saw the flaws like heavily, where they know that he will never be a 30 point per game scorer. So he's not going to ever work next to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But if he can't work next to Shai, then why? What tells you that he's going to work next to someone like Jokic, someone next to Embiid, someone next to Luka Doncic, right? And so they were willing to. They found like they were as kind of hard it was for them to accept it. Like they were willing to move on from him, knowing that he was not going to be able to effectively be on the team as long as he's not the number one guy. And even if he was the number one guy, he is not anywhere near close to what someone like Gilgeous-Alexander would bring to the table. So it's just something that we as Bulls fans, like, it's a lot of hope to put into Giddey that he is going to become this like sudden all-star player, because he doesn't bring anything defensively, so half the court's already gone. And if he can't put up 20 plus points per game, then I don't know what he's going to bring in terms of off-ball roles, right? And like he's not like a cutter, right? Like there's just so many limitations with him that you're just looking at him like, I understand the points, 16 points. I understand the assist, and he's a stat sheet stuffer, but there's a very clear difference between someone with like what Luka Doncic does to what Josh Giddey is ever gonna do. At least what I see moving forward. So if Giddey can go out and put up those 20 plus points per game and extremely good efficiency, or get up to 24, like great, awesome. We're not talking about this anymore. He proved me wrong, and the Bulls have a all-star guard, a 6'8" all-star guard moving forward that is going to be running the offense. But man, oh man, I don't know if that's ever going to happen. And it's going to be really interesting to watch this season, because already off the bat, I'm seeing signs that Donovan doesn't necessarily trust Giddey to fully kind of run the team. Like tonight, he only played 26 minutes against the Milwaukee Bucks. He only played 24 minutes against the Bucks, and when the Bulls went on the run, Giddey was on the bench. And you're looking at it like this Bulls team just runs better when he's not out there clogging up the court. And so yeah, Giddey had a nice game in his limited minutes that he played against Milwaukee. So I'm not taking that away from him. Like he had a very nice game, but like you're then also just looking like, well, when the Bulls kind of made the run in the third, he wasn't out there, right? Like when they kind of were doing all this stuff here, and then even at the start of the fourth quarter, where things kind of went wrong, when they corrected themselves, he also wasn't out there. Like even here, he's still not checking in, and then he finally comes in here. So yeah, it's just, I understand that there's a lot of Australians right now that are really high on him because he's Australian, and like I get props to them. Like I mean, I would also, if I was in their position, probably cheering the absolute heck out of him, because I want him to succeed because he's the representation for your country. But you know, I unfortunately I look at things and I don't have those same thoughts. You know, uh, what about getting on the floor with 4 shooters? Would you be okay with the ball in his hands at the end of the game then? Well, so if Giddey is the best scorer out there, then sure. Like if you're putting Giddey out there next to the Dante DiVincenzo, Kyle Korver, JJ Redick, and all those shooters, then sure, yeah, Giddey I guess is the best ball handler out of all of them. But you're not winning crap with that team, are you? Like that's the problem. Like what? That's not gonna do anything. That's not gonna do any good for you. But if you're asking like, okay, if you had Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and I don't know, let's just say Paul George and others out there. Am I giving Josh Giddey the basketball with like 4 other great shooters out there? No, I'm giving the ball to Steph Curry and Paul George and figuring it out from there. Ideally, it's Steph Curry, right? So it's if you're gonna, you gotta be more specific. Because if you're telling me one of those shooters is Steph Curry, then I'm giving the ball to Steph Curry. Like no questions asked. But if you're telling me that some of the shooters out there are going to be like only stand still catch and shoot shooters, then first off, that team's not going to win anything. But sure, I guess he's the guy out there with the basketball, but that makes no sense. You're not winning anything with that team. He's not Giannis or prime Dwight Howard to build a team with 4 shooters around him. But even then, right? Like even with Giannis, like Chris Middleton was an all-star. Like Chris Middleton could go get his shot at any time. Chris Middleton could do all like it's not just 4 shooters. It's like it's guys that go out and score 20 plus points per game a night. Like that's the problem. Offender stuff runs off ball against pass 2. Well, yeah, I'm aware that Steph obviously is like running off ball, but I mean, did we watch the Olympics? Like Steph closed out the Olympics in that last game, and he was just running the pick and roll by himself. Like, I'm still giving him the ball. Like, I don't care that. Yeah, like off ball, he's fantastic too. Hence why Draymond Green has been so effective with him. But like, he's still, at the end of the day, he's still Steph Curry. That he's an on-ball threat. I'm giving him the ball. I understand we've been following since '99, but with only a couple seasons as a break from the nightmare with healthy D Rose, and Bulls fans are trying to cling at anything resembling hope. But well, I mean, like even like for example, like let's just even take Derrick Rose for example, because like even I don't know what it is with some people when it comes to Derrick Rose, but like sure, Derrick doesn't average the most amount of assists, but if I had to choose between Derrick Rose and Josh Giddey at the end of a game, or even just throughout the entire game, who is running the team, who's initiating the offense between a 25 point per game scorer who only gives you 7 assists or 8 assists per game, and Josh Giddey who's going to be giving you 16 and let's just even say 10? Like, who am I going to give the ball to? I'm giving it to Derrick Rose. Like, I don't know why this is like people even question that. And I hope Bulls fans can understand. That like, yeah, you're giving it to the guy who is going to give you 25 a night. So yeah, I understand the hope. I understand how much people want him to succeed. I want him to succeed. I want him to become this all-star. I want him to prove me wrong. But there are so many mountains for Giddey to climb in my head that it just seems like he will never get there. At least in my head. So go ahead and prove me wrong. I'm willing to be proven wrong about this when it comes to him. Yeah, I already know this is going to be like a major thing because there are so many Bulls fans out there right now from Australia that they don't shut up. Like I'm seeing it all over Twitter. There's even a guy that has a lot of followers on his account that's been a Zach LaVine hater his entire life, and he's talking about how much Giddey does this and that, and it's so funny to me because all he did was talk about how bad of a defender Zach was, and yet Giddey's like worse. So I don't understand their line of thinking, but I'm aware that Giddey has all these supporters that like are going off ship of like we're gonna defend this man until the very end. we are gonna say that he's an all-star, even at age like 35. We're gonna say that he is an all-star because they trust him so much. It's just like, for someone that's been watching the NBA for a while and is not tied to his Australian ties, I'm not going to be that person, unfortunately. I hope people can understand why. Look, I know that some people weren't in the chat yesterday, but I mean, so someone named Raz came in, and I won't lie, I was probably pretty rude to them. Like, I'm being real. I was probably pretty rude to them, and I did apologize to them at the end of the day. And I still do. I still do feel bad. But they came in saying that I haven't watched you. Like, they basically came in saying that you clearly haven't watched enough film with of how good Josh Giddey was with Oklahoma City Thunder. And I'm like, okay, listen, bro. Like, you can disagree with me with a lot of things. I think everyone has the right to your opinion. Like, so for example, Charles, like I appreciate your opinion. I just am gonna straight up disagree with how much you have faith in Giddey, but I applaud your opinion. But the one thing that I get, like, the one thing that does bother me is when someone comes in saying that you haven't watched enough of this person or whatever, and I'm like, I've done film breakdowns. I am on here on stream. I know we haven't done film breakdown tonight, but like I break down a lot of things. Like, I clearly watched the game. And they just come in and are like, you said, like, yeah, you clearly haven't watched enough Thunder film or whatever. I'm just like, what? Like, where's your film breakdown? Where's your analysis on things? And like, I will admit, my ego did get the best of me last night, and I do apologize to that person still. We're good though, but still though, my point at the end of the day is this. I'm not just saying like this stuff about Giddey as just, like, I'm just like looking at stats and stuff. I'm like, oh, it's this and this and this. Like, I've actively gone and watched Giddey play for the Thunder. The Thunder have always been one of my favorite teams in the NBA. Like, I've always watched the Thunder since the Durant and Westbrook days. And like, I keep up with them. I can't watch every game, but like, this is a team that I have actively watched. And I did a lot of research for my Josh Giddey vid. And I knew of Josh Giddey's weaknesses and strengths before the vid even started, and it just, things just got confirmed when I did my own research with it. Like, I have looked at Giddey's stuff. I just want to make that clear, okay? Like, I'm not just like saying this stuff out of my ass of like, oh, well, this person said this, and so I'm just gonna repeat it. Like, no, I've watched Josh Giddey. That being said, I just hope that if you are ever disagreeing with whatever I do say, like, you have done the research, and like, you've shown that, like, hey, I have watched this sort of thing. And I think the biggest example so far of what we have seen has been like the people that have not watched the game has been, which Giddey has been, like, the stat sheets and everything in the box score. Like, I'm aware that, yeah, he puts up rebounds and assists every night. Sure, I get it, but I'm not. Like, that being said, I'm not here saying like, oh, he's such an impactful player, because in my opinion, he's not that impactful right now. He has a long ways to go for him to be a very impactful player. So yeah, sorry for my rant, but I want to make it clear that, like, I'm not just a person that's just like, I haven't watched Giddey's time with the Thunder. I have actively watched Giddey's time with the Thunder. I'm not here just saying that I don't think he's going to become an all-star without watching his Thunder film. I have very much watched his Thunder film. Like, I don't know why people have to question this, but here I am on stream. I gave like a 20+ minute video breakdown of Giddey's strengths. Like, even in that video, I didn't even talk about Giddey's weaknesses. Like, I don't know what people want from me, but I'm just being, I think, just a realist at the end of the day of where my thoughts are at. And I hope that people can accept that and not have like an issue with it. He's a bad example of Australian players from though, as more defenders like Simmons, Daniels, Thibault that pass. Giddey has no D. Sure, yeah. Funny thing is, stats are showing that Zach is well known above average on ball defender, and he never gets targeted in ISOs, etc. But on switches, etc., he gets lost. If you're interested, no, I mean, Box. I mean, we've talked about this all the time. Like, I've talked about what who was it? MB University has talked about it. Like, basketball index have shown, like, Levine's a pretty good on-ball defender. Like, I know, like, I know switch theory. I forget who wrote that article. It was Chris somebody. But yeah, like, I've looked at everything when it comes to Zach. But I'm just saying that the perception of Zach is always that he's so bad defensively. And I've said that on ball, like, he's a very solid defender on ball. I'm not saying he's great. I'm not saying that he's Alex Caruso, but he's a very solid defender on ball. But the people that are in the Bulls community that actively defend Giddey, they're the same people that have talked about how Levine is such a bad defender, no matter what sort of defense it is. But it's so funny to me that it's like, then when it comes to Josh Giddey, they're like, oh yeah, we don't care. He's too good on offense that it doesn't matter. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but Zach LaVine provides more for you offensively than Josh Giddey does right now. At least right now. Again, moving forward, who knows? But right now, Zach LaVine is the better player, and it's not even close. Okay? Because Zach actually is, like, I mean, I think if you just watched even tonight's game, like, Zach actually has some nice defensive possessions against Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Like, I can't even bring a shot up. Like, I think it was this one. Like, this is against Lonzo. It was this one.
Sometimes you want to run to your guy, but you got to.
Yeah, I mean, like, this, in my opinion, was like a good defensive possession from Zach. Like, I mean, you're guarding arguably the MVP of the season. Like, stops him on his initial move, makes him actually have to turn his back to him so that, like, he thinks that he might lose the ball if he's facing forward, and then he's forced into a step back 3-point shot that Zach contests. Like, this is what I know I'm gonna get from Zach. But with Giddey, I don't know if I'm gonna get that. Like, I've seen it with Giddey that he seems lost on ball a lot, because he just doesn't have the athleticism or the wingspan to make up for ground. Like, yeah, I think Zach, like, I'm just pointing this out again. Like, I'm not saying Zach is perfect. Off-ball defense when it comes to Zach LaVine is he's bad. He's lost defensively off-ball. But when it comes to Bulls fans, for some reason, they like to pick and choose who they want to, like, oh, we're upset about this for one player, but not about this player. Like, for example, when it comes to Kobe White, a lot of Bulls fans have just stopped saying that Kobe White's bad defensively when he's not that good defensively. Like, Kobe White is actively a worse defender than Zach LaVine, but because of what he did last season, which again was not even as good as Zach LaVine was last season, they're like, oh, well, Kobe tried defensively. He's trying defensively. Zach is still a bit worse defensively, and it's just like, it's just not true. And I when it comes to Giddey, like, I hate when people just ignore the other half of the game when it comes to him. So on this channel, I'm just making it clear, like, we're gonna be talking about that Giddey's defense is not great. He has done better in terms of blocks than I was expecting so far this season, but that doesn't mean anything so far in terms of on-ball defensive ability. So yeah, I'm hoping that we're just being real about, like, certain situations. And for example, with you, Charles, right? You understand, like, that Giddey's not good defensively, right? Like, the one thing that he does have is size, and so off ball he can sometimes be a good rotator, but other than that, he hasn't really shown anything, right? The numbers all back that up. Yeah, I'm hoping. Main difference period potential. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I applaud you for thinking that, you know, someone has that potential and you're that positive. I'm just, you know, I'm not that positive. Yeah. And Box, yeah, like, I read the switch theory thing. I know Bulls fans will never read that, so, you know, I might even make it a video one day, honestly, because with the way that Zach's playing so far this season, again, I'm aware of the turnovers, but in terms of efficiency, right? I've talked about it. Zach LaVine is still one of the most efficient scoring guards in the league today when he's healthy. The question is health, but he is relatively more healthier than some of the other well-known stars in this league. I'm aware last season happened, And then on-ball defense is something that I have said. He has been better than people have thought than people perceive him to be in terms of on-ball defense. I think it was ME University. I don't have the tweet like right off rip actually, but there was a tweet that was put out about how they showed like all the Bulls like defenders and like they graded them in terms of what their defensive position was. Like for example, DeMar DeRozan, right? DeMar DeRozan in terms of what he ranks defensively, it's very interesting to look at because like in terms of being a low activity defender, DeMar DeRozan is actually pretty good. But we also need to be aware that DeMar DeRozan as a low activity defender means that he is not really doing anything defensively. Therefore, it makes sense that he's pretty good in that spot. So people like look at that and like, oh wow, see DeMar DeRozan's like great defensively, when it's like, no, he's not. He's good in that role where he doesn't do anything defensively. He's like, you know, he takes charges, which makes him pretty decent. But if you're gonna put DeMar DeRozan as an on-ball defender, he is not gonna give you anything. If you have DeMar DeRozan as a help defender, he is not very good either. And so it's just everything when it comes to all these like these, you know, graphs and stats and everything, everyone just needs to take the context of it, like look at it like with full context, not just like, oh, graded B+, they're good defensively, when it's like they're the low activity defender. Like that doesn't mean that they're great. Zuption and Zach Eagles trash defender and injury prone, and he is done, which are both false. He never had a serious knee injury other than ACL one he had when he's still playing for the Wolves. Yeah, like the people that told me that Zach LaVine is washed, I was just like, you're insane. Like I don't know what to tell you, but good luck. Like, I know that I know Levine Muse on Twitter made a bet this year that like I think he made a bet with like someone with the Knicks or whatever, that like if Zach LaVine averages 25 points per game and like good efficiency, like he's gonna win like something this year. And I'm like, I would take that bet. I mean, again, Zach has to stay healthy, but I'm willing to take that. Like I would have taken that bet. Like I'm hoping that people understand that. It's just that Zach's been on losing teams, so it's always like, oh, Zach's bad, Zach's this and that. And I you know, sure, if you want to go ahead and say all that sort of stuff, fine. But at the end of the day, I hope that the actual like legit basketball watchers understand that like he's not perfect. I never said he has been. And sure, maybe you think the contract is too big, but Zach is not by any means the 75th best player in today's game, or whatever ESPN ranked him at. He is much better than the 75th best player in today's game. He is better than Kobe White. That's for damn sure. Unless Kobe breaks out this year and averages 25 points per game, but I doubt it. That also stuff surprised me that he got in the way to actually contest Chet, but sadly Giddey, because he was slow to react, fouled him. I'm honestly, I'm not even too upset at that Giddey foul, but yeah, I mean, Zach did a good job of deflecting that ball, yeah. I've hardly seen any Bulls fans except Giddey. I think the biggest prop up for Giddey is the other commentators have rubbished him far more than you have. I mean, that's interesting to me because I think that I've been pretty harsh on him. So here, let me go up and pull up someone's Twitter that I've been actively talking about in today's stream. Probably no film breakdown also tonight, and I think there's just not much to even talk about in this game, so I do apologize for that. I know we worked on this one clip, but hold on, sorry, I'm trying to find it's this, yeah, it's this guy. Okay. So sorry, I just need to pause the music just to help me. So this guy here, okay, so he's a guy that is obviously much older, but he is, as you can very clearly see, he's from Australia. This is a guy that has over 1,000 followers in the Bulls community. He is actively tweeting with people that like, I mean, they are pretty active in the Bulls community overall. Like he talks to everybody pretty much. But this guy has been a very active supporter of Giddey. And as you can see, he talks about Kobe White being such a great player. But at the same time, though, he has long talked about how much that he hates Zach. He talks about that Zach has been pretty god awful in his time here. I'm trying to find a tweet about him and his contract that I can't seem to find. But basically, he talked about how much that he thinks that he's been like everything that he talked about when it came to Zach and his contract. He thinks like he's been right about everything, and he feels overall satisfied with how much criticism Zach has gotten, and that yeah, he just feels like everyone's like, oh my god, you were right in terms of it. But this guy has been one of the best. Like he's been one of the biggest Josh Giddey supporters, and I get it. He's from Australia, so like I get that part. But he has been one of the biggest guys in terms of supporting Giddey and saying like how much they like, you know, having a point guard who can actually see the floor, or a guy with the ball in his hands that can, you know, give Vooch the basketball, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's just the most annoying thing. If you're wondering, though, he has Josh Giddey as most improved player of the year. And I also find it funny, though, because this guy talks about all of his opinions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But he's also talked about how much that he's not going to watch the Bulls this season because he doesn't want to watch the Bulls lose all these games, which I find hilarious because it's like, I don't want to talk to you then if you're not actively watching the game. But sure, fine, whatever. You have your opinion because you have more followers than me. Sure. It's just odd. Like, I don't understand it all at the end of the day, but here you go. Here's one guy. Now, I'm going to keep bringing up other people for you, Charles, because if you want to go see more Josh Giddey support, I have people for you. Like, I honestly do. Here's local, this is local Bulls fan. He was just recently put onto Bulls on Tap, who is, they have one of their, they're like one of the Bulls podcast people that, do a pretty good job with On Tap Sportsnet. They also write a bunch of articles when it comes to Bulls. So like, here's another guy that has been pretty actively talking about how much that he has been supporting Josh Giddey throughout this entire thing. So just go look through his tweets. I can't find stuff just like right off rip, but I'm trying to find the tweet that he put out about how he thinks that Giddey's not exactly being put in the best position to succeed. And I can't find it, but so here's another guy. Here's also another guy that's from Australia, by the way. This is Troy Wingate. He was part of the I forget. Oh my god, what was his podcast name? I feel so stupid. But this guy also had a podcast at one point. I think he kind of just stopped. But I mean, look, like even with stuff with this, it's just like the amount of extra assists Giddey would have had if the players just made open shots that he created for them, which I'm just like, okay, sure. And you know, he hasn't been a person that's been like actively hating on Zach, but he's a person that he is from Australia and he's gonna actively support Giddey. So I've given you 4 people. I'm gonna give you a 5th person really quickly that he's been overall a supporter of Giddey. But he is a little bit more like, he's not as like a big supporter as like the Australian people, but the Bloody Horns podcast, sorry, hold on. Here we go. Here he is. This guy also has been a major supporter of Giddey. I'm trying to find his tweet. But he was one of the guys that like they were like heavily supporting the overall Giddey for Caruso trade. When I think a lot of the Bulls people were heavily against it, right? So I've given you 5 people. I know it's not like everybody. I'm not here saying like, well, go find these people and everything like that. Like, I'm aware that there's like right now, if Josh Giddey like actively walked outside in Chicago, I don't know if he'd be going back home because he like so many Bulls fans are upset at him. I'm aware, but I do think that there are people that are actively in the Bulls community that make good content overall and you know have like a pretty decent following. Like I mean, he has over 1,000 followers too and has his own podcast and YouTube channel. So if you want to hear people's arguments for why they support Giddy, then go check out these people because they have their arguments, and you know, it's great what they do. I appreciate everything that these people do. But you know, I think you're right in terms of like if you go to CHGO right now and ask Will Gottlieb and about his opinion on Josh Giddey, he's probably not going to give you the most positive answer. And Will Gottlieb is obviously the GOAT. So in terms of like, you know, being one of the main beat writers that so creates content. So I understand that, like, yeah, like I think that there's a lot of people in like the mainstream media more so are actively like saying like Giddy's not great. But there are people though that are content creators that have gone out and said like they support Giddy, that and they think it's a good decision for the Bulls. They have more faith in me. I'll say that for sure. Yeah. Sorry, hold on. I'm trying to catch up on chat. Sorry, I see everything, Box. Hold on, I gotta. Sorry, I'm taking my glasses off. Also, my eyes are strained. Okay, hold on. So I understand Giddy's bad defensively. Okay, so yeah, like I said, like you know that Giddy's bad defensively. Zach is maybe the best defender, Bulls defender at the moment. I still think overall it's probably gonna be Io. But I will admit that I think Zach has been pretty good on ball. To start the year. He's probably been better on ball in terms of IO so far. Off ball though, like again, I know Zach's limitations. Off ball has not been good. I find Zach way too respectful and care about his teammates than he should be. He still doesn't take the most shots when he clearly should. He doesn't want to displease anyone if it hurts him. And some people are making him out to be the super selfish player that only cares about empty stats when he's actually one of the most efficient scorers in the league for the last 5 to 6 years. Yeah. Again, like Zach, his turnovers were pretty god awful. And yeah, like there are times where his shot selection isn't great, but I think if there's anything, if you're having any question about like can Zach LaVine be an effective like number 2 or number 3 on a roster, like, and you know still put up considerable amount of points per game with less shots, I think you're seeing it in just this team alone. Like he's not, like he should be the number 1 on this team. He's not really taking the most shots on this team though. Like yeah, he's gonna be like in top 3 in terms of shots attempted, but he's not like actively taking 20 or like 25 plus per night. I'm sure there'll be games where he does, but like he's not actively going out there trying to shoot all these shots. And so like if he's playing next to someone that is, you know, the number 1, I think he'll still get his points easily as a number 2, especially if he's getting more open shots. So yeah, everything Box is saying here, like I agree with, like, and especially for the stuff that for the people that said Zach is washed, it just doesn't make any sense. We want 2K overall, 2K for overall difference. I would score Zach 84 and Kobe about the same as Josh at 80 because Kobe's super consistent. That's interesting. For me personally, Zach to me should be like closer to 86, 87. And that's where he was before until most recently, where they did drop him. Kobe, in my opinion, should be about like 80. And then for me, Josh is to me like about 78 at the moment. It's been a while though since I've like had like an active like 2K team though, so it's a little hard for me to kind of balance that. But yeah, that I'd be like kind of where you're saying though, Charles. Overall, the amount of assists Giddy would have, people hitting the shots is literally something literally everyone can say about Zach yet. Not a single soul's talking about it. I mean, yeah, like there were so many shots in the fourth quarter tonight where Zach drove hard and then, you know, they just missed the 3. Let me see. I think this one. No, sorry, this is not it. Let me find. Oh, this gets the Bucks. Sorry, Jesus. I just recognized that. Where is... Like, this play, for example, like... I'm being real when I say this. Like, I think Zach and Kobe are the two main playmakers right now. Like, I know Giddey has had his assists and everything, but these are the two guys that are bending the defense the most. So, for example, right? So, for all the people that want to talk about how the Bulls weren't shooting in the paint, I dare you to tell me how Zach is supposed to get this shot off, right? Like, just like overall, right? Tell me how Zach LaVine is supposed to get this shot off in the paint. It's not possible, right? I think we can all agree that like this is not going to be a good shot if Zach tries to force this. And so you see he's double teamed and Zach drew over Io's defender. This is what I'm talking about when it comes to bending the defense and creating an open shot for your teammate. Your ability to score is going to make the defense rotate so that it opens up and creates an open shot for your teammate. This is what I'm talking about. And so right here, for example, Io misses this 3-point shot. This is an open 3-point shot created by Zach LaVine, and it's not an assist because Io obviously missed it, but it should have been an assist, right? And so, yeah, like when Box was talking about like the amount of assists that Giddey would have had if people would hit his open shots, like I think a lot of people it would have applied to tonight because no one was hitting their open shots. And so I wanted to show you one where Io missed an open 3 created by Zach because Box talked about it. But yeah, like it's just so interesting when I watch or when I read stuff and I watch other Bulls content creators talk about how they think this person does this thing, and they'll talk about how this one person didn't could have had all this in the box score if this happened, when in reality it probably was the other people, right? Yeah, it's frustrating just to see it because it is honestly it's a double standard within the Bulls community. But that's what happens when you play, if you're someone like Zach, for example, when you play in the league for 11 years and people make a narrative about you. It doesn't go away. And, I understand that. Was able to talk about it? Oh, poor Zach. He averaged 10 assists per game. If these bums were hitting the shots, how does Zach expect to somehow have a prime LeBron effect to the team? Yeah. People have said consistently they think that Zach should be averaging 30 and should be averaging 2 steals a game. And I'm just I don't know what you're talking about. The people Stacey Keaton talks about all the time how he thinks that Zach LaVine should average 2 steals per game. That sort of stuff is just I don't know I don't know what to expect. You're saying to it that you think someone like Zach, who doesn't have the longest wingspan. I'm aware of his athleticism, but he's not like Paul George length. He's not Paul George height, and he's not as big as Paul George. You're telling me that this guy's supposed to go out there and average 2 steals per game? It's just not. That's just not gonna happen. I think Stacey says his motivation, but I mean, what is Stacey gonna do to motivate these kids? That should all just be on the coaching staff. And someone of Zach's caliber should not be expected to average 2 steals per game. It's just not gonna happen. He doesn't have the biggest wingspan. He is not the Blake Theus guy. Why would you tell me that Zach LaVine's supposed to go out and average 2 steals per game? I'm aware of his athleticism, but that does not mean that he should go average 2 steals per game. Because if that was the case, then Gerald Green should have went out and averaged 2.5 steals per game. We have to just be real. So they're expecting Zach to have MC numbers, not be mad at him. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Because he doesn't stuff the stat sheet at the end of the day. 2 steals is Shea standard. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, I don't think people understand, has a very long wingspan. Yeah, the reason why Shea Shay's not the best on-ball defender because he's not as athletic, but Shea, in terms of his wingspan, he is one of the biggest wingspans. He uses it to his advantage on the offensive end as he can do all these scoop shots. But yeah, Shea, he's gonna go out there and get 2 steals per game. That's not something I expect Zach to go undo, Is Zach like 6'5" with like a 6'8" wingspan? Is not exactly small. Yeah, that I think that's his exact. This is DraftCom mine, so I this is not going to show everything, but actually, does this even show it? I don't think this shows it, right? I guess this is. Okay, yeah. So yeah, we'll go off DraftCom my measurements, which again, who knows? It's a little hard to go off of that and be like, yeah, that's it. But that's what we'll go off of. So yeah, it was 6'8". Yeah, and Shay's is 6'11", 7 foot. Here, I'll pull up Shea Gilgeous and draft. Yeah, so I mean, like when people talk about like his comparison was like DeJounte Murray, like it made a lot of sense because Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is possessing a 7-foot wingspan where it came in at like 6'10.5". Like it's a bigger wingspan, you know. And yeah, Shea is like he's thinner, honestly than Zach. Like I mean, I'll even double check that. Like yeah, like Shea came in at 180 pounds this year, so like Zach is in terms of like overall size is bigger, right? But people are like looking at Zach like, oh, Zach's supposed to be like a fantastic defender because he's athletic and can jump through a roof. I'm like, that doesn't lead to great defensive player. Like it doesn't make any sense. I don't know why people think like, oh, great athleticism, great defensive player. They don't always correlate. Like I understand like with Vooch, like it looks like it because like Vooch is not athletic. He's not a great defensive player. If he was great athletically, then he'd be better. Sure. But when it comes to perimeter guys, that's not always the case. Like you can have great athleticism, but if you don't have the physical tools, right, you're not going to succeed. You need the physical tools to succeed. So when I talk about a lot with Kobe White, right, like he's a guy that first off he's thinner than Zach, so like already he's at a disadvantage. But with his stuff, like he just doesn't have the skills, like the physical tools to go out and be an actively good defender. Where's Kobe's? God, bro. Like so here, Kobe White's wingspan is 6'5". So you're already talking about a guy who is pretty much Zach LaVine's height, but he's thinner and he has a 3-inch shorter wingspan. You're just gonna be a worse defender. I don't care how much you try. I appreciate you trying, but you're just actively gonna be a worse defender. It's just how it goes. Like your physical skill set is important and is gonna determine how good you are gonna be defensively, right? Kobe White is unfortunately, as a guard, he is a quote unquote bigger guard because he is 6'5", measured 6'5". He is just, his wingspan is just smaller. He is not as big. He's just not gonna have success defensively, no matter how hard he tries. It's just what you're gonna have to understand. And so again, keep in mind, Kobe White 6'5" wingspan. Okay, when I go to Ayo Dosunmu, Ayo Dosunmu has a 6'10" wingspan. Like that's a 5-inch longer wingspan. He is gonna be a better defender. Like I hope people can understand this stuff. Like it's important to understand this sort of thing. Is the defense more about effort and IQ like someone like TJ McConnell? But so look, there are always gonna be exceptions for sure. Like yeah, I do think IQ does matter. But if you're gonna try to tell me that someone like Zach LaVine is supposed to be getting all these counting stats, it's hard. Like it's just not gonna come about easily. And I expect the same things from Cat, Siakam, Sabonis, Mobley, Van Fleet, OG Maxey, Desmond Bain, Aaron Gordon, etc. Because they're more or less in the same ballpark contract-wise. So, I mean, Aaron Gordon is on a less contract now due to his new extension. Same thing with Rudy Gobert, by the way. Gobert was getting paid about the same amount as Zach, but now, you know, he's getting paid less. But yeah, like OG, for example, I think people just kind of accept that he will never be a 20-point per game scorer, but he's a good defender. And so people just kind of like, you know, they just kind of like, oh, well, good defender, therefore, if he only puts up 15 a night, he's good. But it just, like, that's just weird, how people just kind of do that. It's why Kawhi was so good in part 2 the wingspan. Oh, yeah, I mean, Kawhi not only had a large wingspan, he has incredibly big hands. Like, that's why Kawhi is so good defensively. Like, you have to have the physical tools. Same things as and expectations people somehow have for Zach. Yeah, Mobley, yes, because he's a more defensive player though proportionally. Yes, for sure. I think people have the potential. Like, they look at Mobley and they see a potential with him, but you know, I think we can argue with Mobley that through the first 3 seasons, right? Mobley has, like, he's been kind of underwhelming in terms of scoring. That's the reason why I had him for most improved player of the year this year, because I do think he'll go on average 20. But I mean, if you're only going to average 15 and, you know, 9, and sure, you give me a block and a half, or like I'm talking about like this year, like, you give me a block and a half and a steal, sure, that's cool, but I need more from you. So, you know, last season where he averaged 3 steals and 2.5 blocks, like that, or sorry, this year, excuse me, where I think this is kind of where I'm more looking at in terms of what I think he can do, where he's gonna average 20, he's gonna give you more steals and blocks. Like, yeah, this is what I expect from you, because you have the physical skill set to go out and do this sort of thing. So yeah, I see, but somehow, according to these same people, Zach should score close to 30 points on 50-49 clips. Let's be a lockdown defender. Yeah, see, like, I hope people are understanding in this sort of stream. Like, this is stuff that I look at, you know. So if you're wondering, by the way, like, moving forward, so when it comes to someone like Montes Buzelis, okay, if you're gonna look at his measurements, there's a lot to kind of, when you look at Buzelis, there's a lot to kind of get excited about in terms of physical skill set, right? So Buzelis coming in, his where is standing reach? I mean, his standing reach is 8'9", and he's coming in with a 6'10" wingspan, right? And he's also himself, right? With Buzelis, he's coming in as what, 6'10"? What do you measure in? Yeah, he's 6'10". Like, that looks to be a solid defender, right? And a guy that obviously with his verticality, you're looking at a pretty good guy that has some pretty decent skill sets, right? I'm interested to see actually if this is in. Yeah, so standing vertical leap is 31, but a 38 max vertical leap. I mean, that's obviously pretty good. I'm interested to see though if there's anything else. So I like that they have all this stuff here. So yeah, like, this is the sort of stuff that, like, I do pay attention to, you know. Like, I hope people understand that, like, it's not just like, oh, you know, when I look at a player, I'm not just like looking at like, oh, how their instincts are. Like, yeah, I do think that part of being a good defender is having the IQ. Sure. I mean, I think a great example of it is like Draymond Green is not like the biggest dude in the world, but his IQ is off the charts. But we also know what makes Draymond Green so special is his mobility, right? Like, yeah, he's only 6'6", but he's mobile, and he also has, I think, I'm actually not entirely sure, but Draymond Green, pretty sure he's like a pretty lengthy wingspan, if I'm not mistaken. Draymond Green, yeah, I mean, Draymond Green is a 7-foot wingspan. Like, you have the physical tools to go out and be a good defender. Like, Draymond Green, his IQ is off the charts, but you also need to have the physical tools to go out and be a good defender. At the end, or I guess I mean more consistent. Like, TJ McConnell is this weird exception where, like, first off, TJ McConnell's not gonna ever be in a starting lineup. Like, it's just never gonna happen. But TJ McConnell, like, he's a pest. But like he's not gonna go out there and be like a Caruso, if that makes any sense. I expect Boost to be a good, great help defender that gets blocks, who can guard wide range positions, and offense to be a lot enough to start, but useful on most teams' potential. So yeah, like Charles, you look at him similarly, right? Um, like in the way that I look at him, like I think he's a good shot blocker. I think he has great instincts in terms of being an an off-ball defender and rotating well. I think he's a ball hawk. I also think that he eventually, once he gets more experience and gets a little bit bigger, he'll be able to guard multiple positions as well. And we'll see how effectively he can guard the guards. And I honestly do think that at some point we'll see him at center and we'll be like he can play minutes there. But yeah, like I also agree that like I don't think he's gonna be a star. But I do see a path where he can become a star. It just like with Giddey, it's a long mountain to climb. And so yeah, I'm excited for Buzelis because I think he can be an effective player on both sides of the court. But my biggest concern with him has always been is that I think he can be a jack of all trades player, but doesn't excel at one thing, right? And that in itself is similar to what Denzel Valentine became, where he's a jack of all trades. He can kind of hit the 3-point shot. He can kind of handle the ball. He can kind of run the pick and roll. And Valentine was like not great defensively either, but like he was okay, I guess, in terms of on-ball defense. I think Buzelis would be a much better defender, obviously, than Valentine. But with Buzelis on offensive end, like I think he might be able to shoot the 3-point shot okay. He might be like kind of good in terms of his ball handling skills. I think his finishing at the rim is kind of up in question at the moment, but I have more faith in him than someone like Patrick Williams, right? So yeah, like this sort of stuff, it's important to look at, but as we're talking about Tyrese Thomas in the chat, right? You need to have the right mentality too, you need to have the physical tools, right? But you also need to have the correct IQ and mentality. So like, yeah, Tyrese Thomas, obviously, like we look at great physical tools, but he didn't have the IQ, and clearly, I think we can also argue he didn't have the drive, to go out and be a good player at the end of the day. Let Tyrese Thomas be the next Amari Stoudemire. Oh my God, Darius, bro, God, I don't know what. Oh, I don't know how you were feeling about that, man. That must have. Oh my God. Yeah, we traded LaMarcus Aldridge for Tyrese Thomas. That might have been one of the worst trades in Bulls history. Whew. Yeah. Imagine thinking that Tyrese Thomas is going to be this next Amari Stoudemire, and you go and watch LaMarcus Aldridge go on and have a really good career. I was on a hype train of Darius Miles being the next KG. Yeah, I mean, we've all had those moments. Like, I won't lie. Like, I look at guys, man, and I'm like, oh yeah, these guys are gonna come and be in like an absolute force. Tyrese Thomas doesn't mean posters. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, because he had the physical tools to do so. But he just wasn't great. It's just how it goes, right? Yeah. Here's you're wondering about Tyrese Thomas. Here's his stats. He obviously didn't turn into that great of a player. At the end of the day, very quickly out of the league, unfortunately, for a player with his skill set. Yeah. Yeah, like we've all had those moments where we're like, we think this player is gonna be like the next great thing, and look where he gets us. Talk about decent season with the Buckeyes. Yeah, I don't know what you would call decent, but yeah. I apologize. I stopped playing the music. So you guys can. So this is my old headset. These are for Tyrese Thomas standards. Yeah. I don't know about you guys. So here's my main headset. I'm not currently wearing it right now though because I'm like I'm dealing with like a skin issue with my right ear at the moment. So I don't want to. I have like cream on my right ear, so I don't want to use my good headset for it. But God, I wish I could just play any music right now because I won't lie. So some of like the some like this this is Pokemon music. If you're not aware. Oh my god, bro. Some of this music it gets on my nerves at the end of the day. As much as I love Pokemon music, but I do apologize for stopping the music. If it were up to me, I'd be honest. I'd be playing every Linkin Park song in the world right now. But obviously we can't do that. I mean, we are the Bulls. All these are just another day at the office. We've been following trades and drafts since forever. Yep, that's that. Yep. Chicago Bulls at the end of the day. I'm interested. If are we? How far are we able to go back in time? Oh my god, perfect. So this was the draft comment of 2002, 2003. Where was I never remember. Is Deng in this draft? He is. Yeah. So here's Luol Deng. If you're wondering why Luol Deng was such a good defender, I mean, he had a 9-foot standing reach and a 7-foot wingspan for a dude that was measured in at like 6'7", 6'8". Said to be 6'9", but I mean that's why he was such a good. That's why he was such a good defender. Obviously, again, mentality and everything, but yeah. Algebra ran for Tyson Chandler and traded Chandler for basically nothing. Ron Artest trade for Mercy Brad Miller. Yeah. Speaking of bad trades, Luol Deng for $3.5 million. I don't know if you guys remember that day. That was a horrific day for Bulls history. Yeah, it was Luol Deng basically for Jordan Bell, who we traded to the Warriors for $3.5 million. So that was a ridiculously bad trade for the Bulls when we look at it. Pretty awful. Yeah, bad trades. This is just a historically bad franchise when it comes to losing trades. All right, I appreciate y'all being here with me tonight. So next game is on Monday, so pretty quick turnaround again here for the Bulls. Whereas, sorry, I'm playing this song because hold on. Sorry, I'm lowering the volume on my headset. And now I can go back to main screen here. So yeah, quick turnaround here for the Bulls. Bulls are gonna be going to Memphis, and this is just a spot, unfortunately, for the Bulls where they just have lost a lot of games, historically. So, I'm expecting this to also be a loss. Also, I just expect Memphis to just be better. If there is a game, if you're wondering where I think the Bulls might win next, it would be against Orlando. I thought maybe this would be like maybe a fluke game where the Bulls could like kind of steal it. So the Magic went and actually lost to the Memphis Grizzlies tonight, if you're wondering. So maybe this is a game where the Bulls might steal it, but I personally think the Bulls are just going to lose to Memphis. We've also just have never. I don't know if have we beaten Ja since he's been at Memphis when he's actually played. I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, I don't have much faith with the Bulls in terms of beating Memphis, but we'll see. I think Memphis is gonna come and show like they're back to being a pretty good team with Ja back. So hopefully Ja just stays healthy the entire year, because I want to see Morant go out and play well. Because I'm being real, man. I don't know how much Morant has left of being like a superstar. I know it sounds crazy, but we've seen these small guards in this league die pretty quickly. And I think, we as Bulls fans know it all the best with Derrick Rose. So Morant's, age 25 season. So I hope that, the Grizzlies can go out and just play well, because I have questions about their future with Morant at the helm. Because not to Morant's fault, but just, small guards just die quick at the end of the day. But that's going to be on Monday. So expect, typical. So it's still a 7 p.m. game. So 9:30 p.m. Central Time will be when I'll be doing my postgame stream, and then against the Magic is gonna be our last game of October. We'll be at home, so I should be able to do my postgame stream after the Bulls take on the Magic, but there is something that's kind of up in the air at the moment, so I can't guarantee a postgame stream for this game. but as of right now, I should still be able to do it. So that's that. So I want to say thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight. I know we didn't do a lot of film breakdown, but I don't think we want to watch this game and look at some of the bad stuff that happened tonight. Bulls lost to Oklahoma City. If you have not already, please hit the like button on the stream. Helps me out a ton. And I just want to say thank you to all the people checking in today. We've had over 65 different viewers in chat tonight. So I appreciate all the support, even on a Saturday night and a Bulls L at the end of the day. Sorry, I'm gonna pop out chat again because I'm so blind when I don't have my glasses on. Meanwhile, we can see the recent opponents hit nearly every trade and draft pick. Yep. Difference in front office. Even Lou Dort undrafted. Imagine the Bulls taking an undrafted player and it being AC. Yeah. We drafted that kind of player, we'd probably leave him in free agency to be picked up by someone else. Then a couple years down the road, we trade for him, give away picks and players. Sounds Bulls. Yeah. Edie gonna eat us in the paint. Game was messy. I'm more concerned about Ja personally, but I can also see that happening. I want to see Vooch try to push Edie. I don't think Vooch is gonna be able to really push Edie around at all. So yeah, I'll be interested in seeing how this game goes. Bulls have their hands full against this Memphis team, in my opinion, but should be a fun game, I think, overall. Bulls obviously are not going to be coming off a second game of back-to-back, right? So it'll just be, I think, just a better game overall to just enjoy, and we'll see the outcome. All right, y'all. I appreciate y'all hanging out with me tonight. I'll see y'all on Monday. Be safe. Peace.